Hello, everybody. Welcome to Talk About Houses. I'm Todd.
I'm Juana.
We are going to have some fun today with the video. We are going to do what real estate will look like in 10 years, a decade from now, and where we believe this is going. And there's three pillars, I think, that are going to cause change in real estate. Okay, the one we're going to talk about is all of this capital flowing into startups, fintech, and things like that are making a push at the real estate market or real estate startup scene, also known as property tech, real tech, things like that, right? That's one. The second thing we're going to look at is government intervention, meaning government incentives and disincentives. And then the third thing we're going to look at is climate change and how potentially having to, solar and CO2 usage and water reclamation is going to affect real estate, both new construction and existing. So let's start with fintech, Silicon Valley. They're all trillionaires there. I think everybody there is like Elon Musk, and they all want to make a big change in real estate, right? Fintech, it's a huge thing right now. Tons of billions of dollars. SoftBank, everyone's throwing money into financial tech. Financial tech the mortgage industry is literally like tied with real estate. Like most big real estate companies have their own mortgage company. They go hand in hand.
Yes.
So where fintech goes and mortgage company, real estate tends to go. So how do you think this model of changing real estate is going to affect over 10 years, knowing now that we know what Zillow accomplished over the last 15 years, open door in these companies? And where is this going?
So beyond the obvious that, obviously more of it is going to be done online, there's going to be less person to person. But I think it's more than that. I think you're going to see people who are innovating in ways that we haven't even begun to consider. We are so accustomed to just maybe making small improvements to the mousetrap. I think it's going to be completely different. Yeah. And I don't know what that different is going to be, but I think that the innovation that's coming will change everything about the way we do real estate. And some of it is going to be maybe borrowed from other countries as far as maybe the way they do their home loans, but I really envision that there will be something completely different than what we're accustomed to. Look, home loans have virtually not changed in decades, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
the whole process hasn't changed.
We have conventional, we have FHA, we have VA, we have USDA, and that's
and it takes a month.
And it takes a month
or more.
But it just seems like it's time to completely turn this thing on its head and do something different. Yeah. And what that looks like, I don't really know. But I think particularly with so many institutional investors in the game, with so much 401k money out there, just our financial world has room to explore something completely different.
Yeah, so here's the thing. There have only been two major changes to how real estate has worked in the last, let's call it 70 years, since post-World War II. Okay, one was the MLS. Now the MLS was only a tool within the real estate industry. That really changed how the industry worked, how buyers were represented, how properties became available to other agents, and it turned the industry around because people used to just put a sign in front of their yard for sale. You would drive by, knock on the door. But the problem with that model was, without using agents and getting a broader pool of buyers, you ended up not always getting a great deal when you sold your house. The transaction, you'd have somebody representing you. Okay, that was the first major change. The next major change was actually the internet, and the internet basically brought the ability to get all these houses online to put them out in front of the public. And then what happened was the real estate industry saw that, and they went out there and stepped up right next to their virtual listing and said, hey, this is us, come to me, come to me, come to me. They used it as a lead generation tool. They still do today. Real estate agents use the internet as a lead generation tool, and their listings, you go to their site, you click on some stuff, and then you call them, ask questions. The next thing you know, you're in their car looking at houses or whatever. Okay, but those have been the only two significant changes. Like we get in a car now on our mobile phone that someone we don't know for $6 and they drive us a mile away to the movie theater. And that's been the way taxes have changed, dramatically changed. But then we still do real estate the same way. So I think that's going to change. I think, and I think that Fintech, this company just launched. They're called Tomo, T-O-M-O.
Okay.
And they're going to revolutionize the way mortgages are done. We'll do a whole video on them when we find out more exactly about how they work. But they raised like an $80 million seed round. Now, for those of you who aren't familiar with what a seed round is, a seed round, like 2 years ago, a seed round was like $1 million. And a seed round was just to get you to the point where you could prove your everything out and get a team going and then go raise 10 million, right? But now like 80 million is the seed round. That's crazy if you think about it. And in a way, it's not crazy because if you're doing mortgages, you need a lot of money.
Right. But there's also a lot of money chasing investments, which is part of the reason why the seed rounds have gotten so big and why everybody and his brother can raise money. Yeah,
it used to be for $1,000 you could get in as an angel investor on a deal. And there's some funds out there now that are like, they have anywhere from a $2,500 to $5,000 minimum investment for angel investor on a early stage startup. So there's more money chasing it, but I think 80 million that's serious. And I think that's, when you see that coming in right into the residential mortgage, loans, and I think their value proposition is they'll be able to do it really fast. Right. They're going to skip ahead of a bunch of like I said, we're going to do a whole video on that specific thing, but I think what happens is, and here's the reason why I think it's going to change. The two top buying groups right now are millennials and Gen Zs. They're just flush with cash. They're super tech savvy. They're thriving. They've stayed single and they're buying homes.
Right.
And they have the flexibility to live wherever they want. The only bad thing for them timing-wise is that hedge funds and all those other guys are out there. Right? And we've got a video right here that we did yesterday. I'm going to put it right here. You can watch that and talk. Well, you'll learn about that, why home prices are going to keep going up. Okay. So I think there's a lot of money, like you said, flowing into it. And I think the market's there's going to be enough momentum where it just flips over and some new model basically displaces a lot of.
Well, and a lot of that is like you said, because there's so much money going into it. You have really big money like, some of these big hedge funds that are putting money into seed rounds, which was unheard of before. So now they're putting in. It used to be that angel investing was for small amounts of money, and seed rounds weren't that much more money. But now you have somebody like Sequoia coming in and putting in just tens of millions of dollars into early investments into some of these financial companies.
Yeah, it used to be that a company would raise, they got $350,000 from a bunch of angel investors, and now the first time you hear about the company is they're raising $1.5 million, but they have a $150,000 allocation for all the angel investors because $1 million was taken by one VC firm, and then the rest of it was taken by these two other firms, and then they're going to leave a little bit for a bunch of people to throw in $5,000, right? So there is a lot of money that's chasing that. And here's the thing about real estate. There's 1,200 real estate brokerages, not agents. There's 12,000 or more agents in Vegas. There's 1,200 brokerages, real estate brokerages in Las Vegas. Why? Because a brokerage you can open, if you got $6,000 in the bank, you could probably open your own real estate brokerage. You go get your broker's license, you go to the real estate division, you fill out the paperwork, you go to your really small office somewhere and you say, I'm a real estate broker. And you put up a website or you don't put up a website and you're Banana Real Estate or Banana Realty. And you're now, you just joined the thing. And I think a lot of those companies are going to have a hard time competing with, $80 billion seed funds. There is a startup, won't say their name, but they have raised, I think 30 or 40 million. And they're in three or four states. I think there are 4 states now. And they're just actually a brokerage. And they've raised $40 million. Like, how does a real estate broker compete with that? And we'll see if they're successful. They have a different business model. But, okay, so that's the first thing. That's the first pillar, is you have all this money chasing startups. Okay, the second thing is government and how government gets involved. Now, we all love government. So let's talk about, we used to get a tax break for mortgages. Remember, that was a big deal. Everyone loved it. So people would buy a house to save on their taxes. but it's harder to do now.
It is. And, because our individual tax deduction has gone up, which I'm very grateful for, mortgages have become less important as far as a tax deduction. And I think perhaps what's going to happen down the road is the mortgage deduction may actually, I'm even afraid to say it, but may actually go away.
Yeah.
There's been talk about this for a very long time, about making it go away. But I really think that it's probably closer to going away than it's ever been because, like I said, the individual tax deduction has gone up so much. And I think we're at a point where government is looking to raise taxes without raising taxes. so by having the home mortgage deduction go away, then it will look like they didn't raise taxes, or if they did, they raised taxes on the wealthy. And so I think that's going to be something that government will look at very closely, and probably in the next couple years. I would not be surprised, sometime in the next 2 to 4 years to see that on the chopping block.
Okay. We're not going to have a political discussion about the wealthy. However, I'm going to say this. A long time ago, the marginal interest rate for income was extremely high, and it was like 80% on anything earned over $1 million, okay? And at the time, there were only a couple executives in the whole U.S. that were making that kind of money. Lee Iacocca was one of them. Solomon Brothers, a big investment firm, was another one. And they made $1 million a year. Everyone knows Lee Iacocca. He was super famous back in the 80s. Okay. So what happened was Wall Street said, hey, look, guys, we want to hire great CEOs and we want this thing to happen, but we can't do it because I can't pay this guy $3 million a year because he's going to pay it all in taxes. So why don't we just give him stock options? They won't be taxed. He'll just get them when he leaves. So what happened was, because of government and taxation policy, it turned the model of compensation to deferred stock equity, which is not tax, it's just equity. And so you're not really paying taxes on it. You get to take it out at some future point, or wait till the tax law becomes beneficial, and then you can pull out all your money is earned, and then you don't pay taxes on it because it's NIMRATE, right? So government, again, look, people in Congress are not dumb.
They're also wealthy.
They're also wealthy.
The
percentage of millionaires, like about 2/3 of them are millionaires, and we're not talking they have $1 million. Like, they're pretty wealthy, and so there are people that donate to them are wealthy. So they're really going to destroy. They're not really going to go crazy with taxes. They'll talk about it, but they won't do it. So here's the thing: what they're going to do is a couple things. They know that if they try to jack up rates on super rich people or high income earners, we'll say, that they just go back to deferred compensation. They'll find other ways to defer compensation. But what you're going to see, I think, is they'll cut out a lot of these tax benefit things that average people pay. They always say it's the rich, and they'll point to something. They say we're raising taxes on the rich, but they're always going to take money from people who are getting like a $300 a month credit for a mortgage payment. You're going to lose that because if you own a house, you're wealthy. I mean, look, let's be honest, that's going to happen. And then what are you going to do? You're probably going to raise your rent. Now that you're not getting a tax credit, you probably want to push to raise your rent. The bottom line is it's going to work its way out. But there's going to be, I think, governmental measures because of deficits right now to figure out a way to raise taxes. And I think that's going to affect the real estate market. Government is going to affect the real estate market.
Yes.
And I think because of where government's gone over the last year or two with moratoriums, I think government's going to get more protective of renters, and they're going to start increasing the amount of legislation, especially as rents go up. And I think that is going to affect the real estate market over the next decade, because right now it's, maybe San Francisco and New York City and a couple places that have rent control. I think Portland does and Seattle does. But I think you're going to see rent control, maybe some national stuff or more stuff potentially happening.
There will be something, because government, well, what's the old joke? As long as the government's in session, nothing's safe.
Yeah. So I think, and it may not happen nationally, it may be state by state, but you're going to see this creep. And in 10 years, I think there'll be an effect. Government has been previously, for the most part in the U.S., very laissez-faire about the real estate market. They have become less laissez-faire, among other things. And if you don't know what laissez-faire means, it's just basically hands-off, letting the market do its thing. And it's a French word. You speak French, so you know what that means. Okay. If you didn't know, Wanda speaks 3 languages. I speak English. So we have startups, and that's going to disrupt. That's one pillar. Then we have government. Now, climate change, a lot of it, before you turn off the video, don't click away, because this is real. Climate change is going to affect the real estate market.
Right.
It's going to affect the real estate market. You can subscribe to the channel so that in 10 years you can watch our video and we can talk about, we'll reference this video 10 years from now, and we'll talk about how we were right about climate change affecting the real estate market. How is climate change? Give some examples of climate change.
So, climate change and government kind of go hand in hand. And what I mean by that is you're going to see, and it's probably going to start in new home construction. I think that government and new home construction are going to get to a point where new homes will have to be energy independent. Not that they're going to be off the grid, but they're going to have to generate enough energy in order to sustain themselves and maybe put some energy back into the grid. I think you're going to see, particularly in the Southwest, where we've had a lot of water usage and not a lot of moisture, I think you're going to see maybe some water reclamation that has not been done before in individual homes. So maybe the water that you use to shower can be somehow purified sufficiently so you can then maybe do your laundry with it or something like that. So you're going to see some of that. And these are, like I said, the whole climate change and government thing kind of go together, because these are going to be basically unfunded mandates. So you're going to see building codes change to support this sort of thing. And it's going to start with the new home builders because they're an easy target.
Yeah, because government controls building permits.
That's right.
So they'll say, oh, you want to build a house? Well, you got to put some solar on it. You have to put this water reclamation system in it so the water gets like filtered locally and then is used to water your yard or something crazy thing like that, or it's used it's used in the toilet. I don't know. It gets reclaimed somehow on a smaller local level. Right. And then if you don't have it done. Now imagine this though, you're in a market where they haven't built homes and all of a sudden they're building homes. You're like, yay, we're going to build more homes. And then you find out these homes are like, they're expensive. Right. Right. Because so you're not going to be able to probably buy like low income new homes because they won't be cheap. Right. So this sort of thing is going to push new home prices up. So because new home prices are going to be so much higher because they have to do all these other things with them, then people are going to look at resale homes, and resale homes are going to say, hey, this new home that's 2,000 square feet is selling for this much. My home is nice too. It's 2,000 square feet, so I want something pretty close to that too. So you're going to see this perpetuating thing as far as property values certainly continuing to climb. Part of that is going to be because what's going to happen with new home construction. And I think it's going to take a lot longer for those mandates to filter down to resale homes because, of course, that is much more complicated. But in today's political situation, I don't think that it's out of the realm of possibility to see all these new building codes that try to impact in some way climate change and try to address that, even if it's just window dressing. And I think there could be some, so as many of you know, there's this 26% tax credit on solar for putting solar on your house. You get 20%, 6% of whatever it costs back in the form of a tax credit. And I think that you're going to see more of this in the future. I don't think it's over. I think that the federal government definitely has a taxation lever to pull, or tax credit lever to pull, or tax punishment lever to pull if you don't add solar within, like they'll say, hey, if you don't add solar by a certain date, we're going to start taxing you a higher amount, or if you don't strap on this water reclamation thing onto your sewer, and there'll be other businesses that sprout up from just like the solar industry is booming right now. we have, solar person comes to the house every day and want to sell a solar, right? And I think you'll have these other systems that come in. There's companies out there right now that are growing that monitor your water usage. They can monitor extremely accurately, tell you if you have leaks, and potentially you'll be monitored so closely that you'll get one day your phone will ring and they'll be like, hey, we're sending a tech over because you have a leak of a gallon per hour. And they'll be like, how can you tell? Well, we're monitoring your system and we can see it and it needs to be fixed or else we're going to start finding you or whatever.
Right.
So I think that, and the reason we're talking about this is it kind of does blend in with government, but I think there will be also climate change if it causes electricity rates or electricity become expensive and water to become scarce. There will be a financial incentive to make your home more friendly. And by doing that, it's going to make home prices go up.
Right.
Either by more stuff on the windows or by solar or by water reclamation or, better insulation or whatever.
Right. So all of these put together are ways that real estate will change going forward. And all of them put together, I think also are going to sustain, if not increase, property values and property prices. Yeah,
I think that if you own a home, you're in a good situation. We still tell people all the time, when people call and say, hey, I want to sell my house, we're moving out of town. We go, that's great, we'll come over and meet you. We say, hey, have you thought about keeping it as a rental? And they kind of sometimes go, well, wouldn't you make more money if you sold it? Like a lot more money. Yeah, we'd make a lot of money, but if you kept it, you could collect rent and maybe you'd cash flow and maybe it's worth more in 10 years. And what else are we doing with your money? And so that's something to think about. We have a whole nother video on that. Should I sell my house or rent it? And I'm going to put that right here. We just did that a few days ago. Should I sell my house or should I rent it out? That's a good video to watch. But I think you're right that all these companies Silicon Valley type companies are coming in to change the model. That's going to put pressure. You have government that's going to put pressure on real estate. You have climate change, there is going to be an effect, whether you believe it or not, think it's a hoax, it doesn't matter. It's happening. It's going to affect real estate. I think all of these potentially could be good for real estate. They could protect the home values, make it a better asset class going forward. Because ultimately, if you live in a house that's fully self-sufficient and you're not taxing the power grid and you're not taxing the water system that much, and it's a great thing to own.
It is.
Okay, if you made it to the end of the video, thanks a lot. Please subscribe, hit the notification bell. If you have any questions about real estate, our contact information is in the comments below. And what else?
Hit the like button and leave us your thoughts. We want to know what you're thinking.
All right, see you on the next video. Bye.
Bye.